We've got health officials and political officials giving us conflicting information. How are we to know what we should do? Let's talk about the role of decisiveness when it comes to being a man. When I'm talking about being a man, I'm talking about being a protector, a provider, a guardian, a caregiver, a caretaker, someone who is a father, a husband, a provider for our communities in whatever capacity that you are. Why is it important for us to be decisive and make decisions? The short answer is that people will turn to us to be solid, to be certain in great times of uncertainty, much like this time in human history, in global history that we're living in right now, where there's a global event occurring, where we're living through the fallout of a pandemic, and there's information and misinformation and assessments and opinions about how we ought to be conducting ourselves in this world, but no one really knows. We've got health officials and political officials giving us conflicting information. How are we to know what we should do? And this came up for me this week as I'm starting to listen to all the different streams of information and directives about how I should be conducting myself, how I should be taking care of my family in this time right now. And I've had to listen to both sides of a really big spectrum. On one side, it's all about fear. Everybody should be wearing masks and gowns, and we should stay inside, and we shouldn't touch anybody, talk to anybody, really far into this fear-based mindset that some people believe will create more safety and reduce mortality rates for our population. And then there's the other side of the spectrum that I've listened to, mostly men that I've talked to who are throwing caution to the wind, not listening to the recommendations, saying, oh, that's just a bunch of baloney, the conspiracy theorists, the people who don't believe that this is a dire situation. It's a big spectrum. And what I learned for myself in having conversations with many other men about this is that because there's no certainty, because there's no guarantees of this is right or this is right, it's up to us to decide where we want to stand on that spectrum. It's up for me to decide what is, given all the information that I've got, what is the best decision for me and for my family and my loved ones. And I've talked to a lot of men who are in the same process and revealing our conflicting voices that we have in our heads. I literally have a voice in my head that is like, well, if I don't listen to those people that are being extra cautious, extra safe in their protocols, and it turns out that this was as big of a deal as they said it was, then that's on me. I was being irresponsible and reckless with how I took care of my family. And if I don't listen to this side of me that says everyone's being overprotective, overcautious, and I go for the more safe route and more paranoid route, then I'll look at this and say, oh man, why didn't I just listen to my gut? Why did I generate so much more fear and anxiety in the space for my family? And so I go back and forth and I don't know which voice to listen to. And I see a lot of other men who are going through the same experience right now. And this is it's relevant right now for what we're in, but it's also plays out everywhere else in our lives. Knowing what that voice of truth is within us, knowing, given the information that we have, and making a decision on where we want to sit on that spectrum, what's true for me. One of the hardest things to do is to decide and to declare that truth and then stand in it in the face of all these other conflicting viewpoints. To me, this is one of the greatest marks of being a man, being an adult, being a protector and a provider and a guardian, especially for little ones, and also for our partners and our spouses who look to us for certainty, for safety, for security. So in these times, in these opportunities we have where there's no answer, there's no manual or playbook to go by, it's up to us to decide. It's up to me, it's up to you to decide what that truth is for you. Whether it's safe for you to go outside with your family and go on a camping trip in spite of the recommendations of health officials and public officials. Or if it's more prudent to stay right at home like they're saying, to hunker down, to do your civic duty and reduce the impact of this pandemic. It's up to you. Will you take that responsibility? Because taking responsibility and making a decision also means that I'm willing to accept any of the consequences, which is often what keeps us from making a decision in the first place, is the fear of what the consequences might be if we don't get the decision just right. We want to reduce the consequences instead of just embrace them by making a decision. And so we get caught up in hesitation and not knowing which one to choose, the indecision dance that so many of us do. But in my opinion, the more masculine thing is to assess the information that's coming in, make the best decision with what I know in this moment, and embrace and accept all the consequences that result from my choice. Move forward from there. Respond from that place instead of being so paralyzed by this indecision, by not knowing, by the uncertainty. So wherever you are right now, in this place of indecision, uncertainty, not clearness, I invite you to go ahead and get clear. I invite you to have conversations with as many people as you need to, knowing that ultimately you're going to come to your own decision. Not a decision that's going to make your parents happy, not a decision that's going to make your partner happy or the government or public officials or authorities happy, but the decision that feels best for you. One side of this is paranoia and fear. The other side of this is recklessness and rebellion. Where do you stand on that spectrum? Where do you want to be? Because it's up to you. So let's get this dialogue rolling. Tell me in the comments below. I want to know where you decide you stand on the current state of affairs that we're in, or anywhere else in your life where you have failed to take a stand and make a decision. Let us know about it. Let's talk about this. Let's all figure out where we stand for ourselves, because that means we'll be the men, the providers, the protectors, the guardians that our families, that our loved ones, that our communities need us to be. And there's no such thing as getting a decision right. There's only making a decision and dealing with the fallout of it. Positive, negative, good, bad, otherwise. There's always consequences, so there's always going to be something to respond to. If you like this video and you're feeling what we're dropping down here on the Rising Man YouTube channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you share this video and drop us some comments below and let us know how you feel. For more opportunities to become a bigger part of the Rising Man community, head over to risingman.org and make sure you check out all the other episodes of the Rising Man podcast right over there, either on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere else you can hear us. You dig? Peace.
Hi guys, make sure to subscribe. Thanks. Rise up and claim your destiny.